Department of Public Works and Highways Secretary Vince Dizon says the agency will make do with the bicam-approved budget even though it will be 40% lower than what was proposed in the National Expenditure Program. In a press conference on Thursday, December 18, Dizon notes that the Bicameral Conference Committee had set the budget of the DPWH at 529 billion pesos. He says this amount is more than 300 billion pesos lower compared to the 881 billion pesos originally proposed in the National Expenditure Program.
And okay lang yun. Kasi naniniwala ako, naniniwala ang Pangulo, at naniniwala din ang Kongreso na ang importante sa budget ay maginis siya at ma-implement siya ng tama. We will make do with what the Senate and the House has approved. Gagawin natin yan. Gagamitin natin ng tama ang budget na ipinagkaloob sa atin ng ating Kongreso.
Dizon says the DPWH will still need to assess whether there will be projects that can't be completed given the lower budget. However, he assures that there will be measures that can be undertaken in case of a shortage of funds when implementing a certain project.
Kung merong kulangin, may marami naman pwedeng gawin. Pwedeng i-modify, di ba? Or pwede kung meron tayong savings, which I'm quite confident magkakaroon tayo ng malaking savings sa 2026, pwedeng gamitin yon para mabuo yung mga proyektong kukulangin. So, meron namang rules dyan. Pero ang importante, meron na tayong budget, klaro na, ngayon, execution na tayo.
As part of efforts to ensure that funds are used correctly, Dizon reiterates that the DPWH will apply its updated construction materials price data to all projects approved by Congress. All of the agency's projects, alongside related information, will also be published in its transparency portal. Previously, Dizon called on the Senate to restore around 45 billion pesos that was deducted from his agency's budget. The budget cut was due to reductions in the updated construction materials price data. He said nearly 10,000 projects might be affected by the reduction. The new construction materials price data began implementation earlier this year. Under the new price data, the prices of certain construction materials for government infrastructure projects were lowered to match the market price and prevent overpricing. Explaining why the DPWH budget should be restored, Dizon said the construction materials price data should not have been applied across all projects per region. He said it should have been computed per project depending on its specific program of works. Dizon later apologized to the Senate for providing limited and insufficient data on the application of the updated construction materials price data. Days after the Maritime incident, China and the Philippines continue to trade accusations of lying over what transpired at Escoda Shoal. 3 Filipino fishers were injured when China Coast Guard forces fired water cannons to drive them away from Escoda Shoal on December 12. The Philippine Coast Guard released footage of the incident shot by the local fisherfolk themselves. In response, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun offered a different version of events. Guo did not mention the water cannon incident and framed China Coast Guard operations against Filipino fishers as professional. He also accused Filipino fishermen of wielding knives. Defense Secretary Gibot Teodoro on Tuesday, December 16, said the accusations against the Filipino fisherfolk were blatant lies. On Wednesday, December 17, Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson Jiang Bin echoed the allegation that the Filipino fishermen had brandished knives against Chinese forces. According to state media, Jiang also accused certain individuals in the Philippines of supposedly telling barefaced lies. He warned the Philippines to stop staging incidents, playing the victim, and hyping propaganda. Jiang was quoted by state media as saying this was a case of the thief crying, "Stop thief." According to US-based news platform The China Project, the Chinese idiom, "a thief crying, stop thief," is similar in meaning to the English expression, "it takes one to know one." In response to the latest accusation, DND spokesperson Arsenio Andolong on Thursday, December 18, says the Philippines is not hyping the issue as the facts speak for themselves. He notes that the Escoda incident was documented, time-stamped, and corroborated by video recordings, vessel logs, and on-site reporting by the PCG. He emphasizes that no amount of rhetorical reframing changes the reality that ordinary fishermen were harmed while fishing lawfully within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Escoda Shoal is a low tide elevation while within the country's exclusive economic zone, approximately 75 to 95 nautical miles from Palawan. China claims what it describes as indisputable sovereignty over Escoda Shoal, but the atoll is more than 600 nautical miles from the country's nearest landmass. A 2016 International Tribunal ruling has since effectively dismissed Beijing's sweeping sovereignty claims over almost the entire South China Sea, following an arbitration case filed by Manila. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board will allow ride-hailing services to start charging passengers once a booking is accepted instead of from the pickup point. This is to balance the impact of the surge pricing cap set to take effect on December 20. According to LTFRB Memorandum Circular number 2025-058 dated December 17, the distance between the driver's booking acceptance location and the passenger's pickup point will now be included as a chargeable distance under the per kilometer rate and travel time rate. This chargeable distance will be limited to a radius of 5 kilometers, with rates varying depending on the type of vehicle. The new circular supplements the earlier issued memorandum that imposes a surge pricing cap on transport network vehicle services or vehicles booked through ride-hailing applications. The earlier circular states that the surge pricing for TNVS vehicles shall not exceed the combined total of the per kilometer rate and per minute travel time. Both circulars will be in effect from December 20 to January 4 only. LTFRB Chair Vigor Mendoza II says the updated pickup fare system is aimed at aligning fare computation with actual service costs. He says this will promote equitable compensation for TNVS drivers and ensure the availability of rides across all areas. With regard to the surge pricing cap, Mendoza says the LTFRB understands the concerns raised by TNVS drivers. He notes that the arguments are supported by studies on travel time, particularly in Metro Manila. According to Mendoza, studies have shown that TNVS drivers often spend significant time in fuel reaching passengers' pickup locations. The Bureau of Immigration says former Public Works Secretary Manuel Bonoan has yet to return to the Philippines after leaving for the U.S. in November. Bonoan is the subject of an immigration lookout bulletin amid the flood control controversy. He left the country on November 11, allegedly to accompany his wife for a medical procedure. According to the BI, Bonoan indicated December 17 as his return date, but records showed that he hasn't returned. The resigned DPWH chief is among the officials accused of being involved in ghost flood control projects in Bulacan. In separate recommendations, the Independent Commission for Infrastructure asked the Ombudsman to probe and file administrative charges against Bonoan. This after the ICI found him liable for 2 ghost projects in Bulacan worth over 160 million pesos. The ICI said Bonoan must face administrative charges for grave misconduct, gross dishonesty, conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service, and any violations under the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. Bonoan has previously denied involvement in alleged corruption at the DPWH.